Great. Thank you, everybody, and thank you for welcoming us this morning. My name is Sandra Scalzo, and I'm so honoured to be hosting the panel discussion this morning. I'm joined by a range of people from different walks of life, here to share the amazing stories with us all. And so much of today is about that. It's about stories. So I am really honoured to be sharing that and digging and diving a little bit deeper into some personal accounts as well. Now, as I said, they're from our panelists are from all walks of life. However, they do share something in common, and that is their deep connection with Diabetes Victoria, which we'll hear more about first in a moment. Now, first cab off the rank is our CEO, Glen. Now, Glen, as we mentioned in the opening, you were at PwC for over 33 years, and 24 of those years you were a partner there before making a very deliberate and personal career change to become CEO of Diabetes Victoria. Are you happy to share with us the reasons behind that career change?
Yeah, sure, Sandra. Very happy to share that. And look, I think I kind of describe it that sort of two parts have sort of come together. My role as a carer and a father of a son with type 1 diabetes, and my professional career. So my son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes age 9. He's 21 now. And shortly after his diagnosis, we as a family got involved with diabetes, joined the boards of Diabetes Victoria, and had that role for a number of years. But in parallel with that, my professional career, as you said, I was a partner with PwC for 24 years, and I really reached the point that I felt I'd done everything in that aspect of my life that I wanted to do. Right. So in terms of, it's actually a pretty long stint as a partner, 24 years. I felt that I'd done what I wanted to do, and I was very much looking, what the next stage of my professional career would look like and what contribution I wanted to make. And I reached the point that I wanted that next stage, I guess, to have a more significant focus on making a contribution to big societal issue. And for me, that was diabetes, because of my personal connection. So reaching that decision sort of in the end was relatively easy in terms of sort of thinking that's what I want to do for the next part of my life. So that's what really led to the change, I guess, to then bring that or try and bring that professional experience to Diabetes Victoria in the role of the CEO. And I sort of say that in terms of making that change, that I understand that there's a significant amount. It's a significant challenge, right? And that's really what I'm about in terms of bringing my energies and experience into the role. As a family, look, I understand that I probably have maybe more education and means than the average Australian. And so I often reflect on that in terms of the issues that we as a family have faced through school years and growing up and so on, and dealing with the education system, dealing with the health system. And I use that as a check in terms of if I and we as a educated family face challenges, then what does the average Australian face? As in, if we're sort of finding things difficult, I'd imagine the vast majority of Australians and the community do so to the same or greater extent. So, that gets me going, right? That gets me going in terms of wanting to make a difference and wanting to make change. And that's sort of a point of reflection I often make, and try and bring into now this stage of my career.
Great. No, thank you for sharing that. As you mentioned in your welcome earlier as well, we are obviously here today to thank everybody in the audience, our supporters, our donors, our volunteers. I've seen a few of them here as well. So it's great to have everybody here together. Glen, can you tell us why this support from the community is so important?
Yeah, Sandra, look, it is so important in terms of, organisations like ourselves. We need and we rely on support from the community, but we also have a really strong understanding that we need to deliver on that, and that's also what we look to do in terms of any support that is provided, that we develop and deliver programs and research that is meaningful and impactful.
Thank you. Great. Next, I think I'd like to introduce everybody to Helen Barnett. Hello, Helen. Welcome. Helen is, firstly, I hear congratulations are in order. You received a Callian Victory Medal earlier this year. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Fantastic.
It was actually meant to be 2020, but...
Yes, there was a few award ceremonies this year from what I understand. So, yeah, although you achieved the milestone earlier, you were awarded the medal earlier this year. So congratulations. What a great achievement.
Thank you.
I'm sure in your 50 years, you have, from being diagnosed, you've seen lots of things change. You've seen lots of things come and go, and treating diabetes and obviously people's perspectives on the condition have changed dramatically. Can you tell us a little bit about what's changed the most in your years living with diabetes?
Lots, because I was diagnosed in 1970, and at that stage there were no other type 1 diabetics at my school, and it wasn't hard, just to be honest, because I thought, oh, this is something new. No one else has got it. And everyone was fabulous to me. And even though no one knew a lot about it, but, I managed, flew by the seat of my pants, I guess. But it was through the times, it started off with a glass syringe, and then you went to disposable syringes, and then the pen. And I know there's a pump, but I've decided to stick with the pen, because what happens, my endocrinologist suggested that I go and do a DAPHNE course, which is through fabulous Diabetes Victoria. We even had in our class, we had a man flying down from Sydney, because he said there's none there. So we're very privileged here in Victoria, and I'm very happy to be here with Diabetes Victoria. Now, that changed a lot of things for me, because I would have my HbA1c would be 8.5, or the best I ever did was 7.9. Most people would be thinking, oh, but now the last test I had was 6.5, and I've been sticking around that area, and I'm so happy it's made such a difference. So it's been a great ride, really, because what you've got to do is stay very positive, which I always was, and I know not everyone is, so that's why more research needs to be done to help these ones. I didn't even know that people, could get depressed about it, cause all these problems. And it's opened my eyes. And so I would like to be there to help in some way, to help, change these things, because I know everyone's different. And I've just been fortunate because I've been positive. I had a mother who was very switched into health and health food and all that sort of thing, way ahead of her time. And she gave me a great example, and that's why I'm really healthy today. So you can be, and you can do whatever you like. Nothing should stop you from enjoying life and going out on adventures, even though you got type 1. Yeah.
No, that's brilliant. Absolutely. And community is such a big part of that. Yeah, finding the right community and network of people around you. And days like today are a perfect example of that. It's where we come together as a community and share these stories and so forth. So no, that's brilliant.
Thank
you. If I can also ask Helen, we'll stay with you for a moment longer.
Sorry, I was very
bit keen. I also understand that you have left a gift in your will to Diabetes Victoria. Now, firstly, thank you. It's very generous and very much appreciated. But if you can tell us a little bit about what prompted you to do that.
Well, basically what I just said before, I noticed that you know, well, no, I shouldn't say that. It is to do with seeing how different people handle their condition, but also throughout the years, because I've had it so long, I've seen these changes, and I know they're not magically happening. I know it takes money for research, and the research has helped me unbelievably. So why not be there to give to others, or sorry, to give to the ones doing the research to make it better for others? And that's what community is about, helping each other. Well, was last I checked. Yeah, so that's what I want to do. I want to help my neighbour.
No, thank you. That's
okay.
That's very generous. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll pass the mic along. All right, everybody, I'd love you to introduce you to Loretta Sallabanks. Thank you. Now, Loretta is works with our partners here at NAB. So the beautiful auditorium you're sitting in here today is a lovely gesture of our partnership. And those sorts of corporate partnerships are incredibly important to organisations just like Diabetes Victoria, because events like today wouldn't happen without that generous sponsorship from you to keep costs low and to ensure other funding from other areas go towards research, go towards education programs like AusDaphne and things like that. So firstly, a massive thank you, Loretta, to you and the team at NAB.
You're very welcome.
Great. Can you tell us a little bit about your role at NAB? It sounds like a great role. You're the Director of Government, Education and Community. Tell us a little bit about what you do and why you're so passionate about the role that you're in.
Okay, thanks, Sandra, and thank you for having me as a panelist. I did not really expect that, but really feeling privileged. So NAB invested in a specialised business banking area just for the for-purpose / not-for-profit sector. So I'm one of the what we call community bankers. So I look after lots of large not-for-profits here in Melbourne. Our business is national. So there are clones of me across the country. And what we've found at NAB over the last 15 years that we've been running this for-purpose sector business banking area is we become experts in the sector. We understand that, you know, organisations such as Diabetes Victoria need to make surpluses. We don't call it profit, in order to deliver your core mission and support, you know, people who are living with diabetes within Australia and in Victoria. So we understand the nuances. The more we work with organisations like Diabetes Victoria, the more knowledge we get, the more expertise we can absorb in order to help and support you with delivering your core mission. In particular, I guess there is the basic banking products and services that we work with, you know, Leith and the finance team at Diabetes Victoria. But I guess the part of the role that I love is to help you beyond the financial services, which is trying to establish and build a partnership with my clients. So with Diabetes Victoria, it's about helping you build awareness. We have 34,000 staff across the country at NAB, and I can create that awareness through our social media platforms at NAB. There'll be many people living with diabetes who work at NAB. So we're almost like a cohort in itself to help spread and build awareness about diabetes. We also help with event spaces like this. We also help with skilled volunteering and employee giving, and also trying to create a deep partnership through connecting you with our senior executives as well. So it's all about, you know, building a long, sustainable partnership and relationship with the not-for-profit, for-purpose sector, because we know how vital it is to helping our most vulnerable in the community. I have had a long career in banking, and I wanted to enter the for-purpose sector using my existing skills in the finance world, because I saw the power of the for-purpose sector and how it can really help people. And my daughter has type 1 diabetes as well. She's been living with it for 10 years. We all have as a family. And it was Diabetes Victoria who I turned to initially, and JDRF. And I couldn't believe the power that, you know, that it had on me in my life. As a parent of a type 1 child, you have a bit of education in hospital, and then, you know, you've got to kind of really try and execute on the plan and, you know, make it work for the family. And leaning on Diabetes Victoria was incredible. So I'm not brave enough to work for Diabetes Victoria. I kind of leveraged my finance skills and got back into the banking world after having 4 years off with my children when they were little. But I feel like this is my contribution to Diabetes Victoria and to the for-purpose sector, and those brave board directors and executive teams and people on the ground who are really supporting our most vulnerable in society. So thank you for having me today.
Thank you.
May this be a really long partnership together with NAB.
Couldn't agree more. And thank you for sharing that as well. Yeah, amazing. Thank you. Yeah, pass it on. Next up, I'd like to introduce you all to Arnold Castillo. Welcome, Arnold.
Thank you.
Yes. Now, we've had a chat earlier and you've got an interesting story as well that you'd love to share. Now, I understand that you were diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, Arnold, at a very young age, being 17 years old.
That's correct.
Can you tell us about that time and how that impacted your life?
Sure. You know, sitting in this panel, I see the different journeys that people with diabetes have gone through. And mine, you know, even though we do share the same disease, is vastly different to the next person. But I think that common is that support that you get from Diabetes Victoria. So at 17, funnily enough, you know, being diagnosed with diabetes was strangely a blessing and also a curse. For me, in my teens, I was always that overweight guy who, you know, everyone wanted to hang around because I was the funny guy, but didn't really want to be dated because, you know, but then all of a sudden I was losing all this weight. And, you know, the same symptoms as what Xavier mentioned, you know, extremely thirsty, tired. And I was actually misdiagnosed initially. My doctor said, it's a great thing that he's losing weight. Go home, all good. But my dad thought, no, this is, you know, this isn't right. And then lo and behold, that I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. I guess my journey varies from Glen's, where I came from a migrant background, working class. And in the Philippines, you know, I've had diabetes for 32 years. It was an early death sentence. It was seen as, because you didn't have access to the medicine, the technology, the support that Diabetes Victoria provides, which I did. So at the time, I recall, you know, my parents, you know, crying in the car, visiting me in the before visiting me in the hospital, thinking, you know, what's the future for our youngest son? But I think with the support of Diabetes Victoria, you know, the resources that you provide, the information, you know, giving that information to different nationalities, different cultures, help them understand, actually, you know, it's not an early death sentence. You know, you can live a normal life. There's a lot of support there. There's a lot of backing that you can get from hospitals here in Australia, and, you know, the medication is affordable. You know, I've had aunties and uncles that have passed in their 40s, in their, you know, 50s, because they can't even afford to buy the medication in the Philippines because it's just not affordable. So I guess the other thing that I've seen with the technology, you know, I am on an insulin pump, which was a game changer for me. My control was amazing, is amazing. And the next game changer that's been introduced is the continuous glucose monitoring, which talks to my pump. And I call it my artificial pancreas. You know, it tells me, hey, you know, your insulin's low, your blood sugar's low, and then it adjusts automatically. My HbA1cs have been, amazing. And I'm hoping that, with that technology, I will, live a long and healthy life.
Great, thank you for that story. We'll hold on to that microphone for a moment longer, if you could, Arnold. Now, in your perspective, why are organisations like Diabetes Victoria so important to yourself and the community? You've touched on it already.
Yeah, and it is. I know now with the Filipino community, when I was first diagnosed, I had many people coming into the hospital thinking, oh, I better visit him because, he's not going to be around for a long time. But with a lot of the education that Diabetes Victoria provides, it's now seen as, okay, we can manage this. There's a lot of diabetes, and it was mentioned earlier, we've got, a high number of people diagnosed year after year. And it is an epidemic in the Filipino community, but now it's accepted. We have the medication, we have the technology to control this disease. And I think, I hear the stories here, and, Xavier's story brings me back to when I was first diagnosed. And, I think for me, knowing that you've got the support here, you've got, the amazing support and contribution to like people like Dr. Alberti, and many of you here, it's that I feel, privileged that I am in Australia. I can have an amazing life, even though I am battling this disease. And it's a message to people like Xavier that, yeah, it's a bit of a roadblock in your life, but, I cycle. I've got a son who, is passionate about soccer, which, I'm there with him all the time. And it is not an early death sentence.
Definitely not in your case, that's for sure. No. Thank you, Arnold. That's great.
Thank you very much.
And our final panel member here today is His Honour Frank Shelton. Thank you for being here. Now, His Honour Frank Shelton is a retired county court judge and was the deputy chairperson of the Adult Parole Board in Victoria until 2019. You've had a very busy life from the sounds of it. Now, firstly, if you could tell us about how yourself and your wife came to connect with Diabetes Victoria.
Well, our son Edward, when he was aged 11, had the same symptoms as have been spoken about by Xavier and by Arnold. Very thirsty, losing weight, and going to the toilet all the time. And he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And so very soon after that, we were in contact with Diabetes Victoria and for supplies and the like, and general assistance. Pardon me. And in particular, the camps. This is all, he's 42 now, so this is all over 30 years ago, but speaking to him about it, he was telling me, reminding me that how beneficial those camps were, that he didn't know anyone else who had diabetes, so he was sort of there on his own. And going on these camps sort of gave him a sense of camaraderie with others of round about his age who had diabetes, and it made him feel that he wasn't just out there on his own with this unusual chronic illness. And I remember when he was going off, we farewelled him on the bus, and this little 11-year-old, he was just sitting there on his own. We thought, oh gosh, how's he going to get through the week? But anyhow, he came home and he'd had a great time. And over succeeding years, he went on camps. I think he said he went on about 8 or 9. as he recalled, and down at Anglesey, and then I think they went somewhere else, then some older ones, and then towards the end, he was a leader a few times at these camps, and so he really benefited enormously from them, with all the friendships and that were developed.
Thank you. That's great. And camps, from what I hear, are life-changing for so many people. And they obviously are run through Diabetes Victoria, and they have such a huge impact. People remember their experience, and parents remember their child's experience for years and decades later. We've actually got some staff at Diabetes Victoria that were camp leaders themselves. So it really does change lives, and it's yet another amazing program that we run at Diabetes Victoria. So thanks to all the volunteers. I know there's some volunteers in the audience today who've been involved with it as well. So things like that couldn't happen without all of you. So thank you. Now that concludes the formal questions. I've just got a couple. There wouldn't be a panel discussion without a couple of open questions. Now, a lot of people were talking about remembering back, and even today some of the stories we heard when you were first diagnosed, and so much information is provided to you during that first diagnosis and the consequent appointments following that. If you met someone today who was newly diagnosed, what piece of advice would you give them, or their parent who recently has a child? For any panel members, if you'd like to start.
Yes, well I think certainly being in contact with Diabetes Victoria is a very good place to start, and to be realise that you're not out there on your own, that you can call on the organisation and for assistance and support.
Yes.
And it's certainly that's how we felt, and we found it very helpful and worthwhile at the time.
Thank you. Anybody else from the panel?
Just something I remembered. There was it was called a youth night. Obviously, it was many years ago, but it was through Diabetes Victoria, and that was so informative. You get doctors come in, nurses come in, and they would just have a discussion about something to do with diabetes, and I found that so helpful. So it's been that way all the way through. The more information you've got, the better control you can have. So, and you don't feel so, oh, maybe it's just me, but something that you're puzzled about or you're not handling well. So just information is so important, and I have to say I forgot about that. That was so long ago, but it was so helpful. Anyway, that's just me. Okay.
Oh, sorry. No, that's good.
Yeah, I think just to add to that information, it is there. I know there have been times when I've been in hospital, and even unfortunately, some of the nurses will come in and say, "Oh, I heard you've got an insulin pump. I'd love to see what it looks like, what it does." And I know, speaking with Barbara, who's invited me here today, she said, a lot of the work that Diabetes Victoria does is to encourage that in education, even in our medical field. Sometimes I am that. Everyone comes in and says, "Oh, you're that guy with the insulin pump. Can I see how it works?" But I think the more information that's brought out there to a variety of people will help our journey as diabetics, and families' journey, to make it a lot more well known for our treatment.
Great.
I probably just want to add around the school's environment. My daughter was the only child in a school of 700 kids. So it's, I think, 1 in 5,000 children, school-age children have it. And the school environment can get a little bit nervous. So I did refer them to Diabetes Victoria. They did training at Monash Children's as well. So just making sure the people who are looking after our children are supported as well and have the information that they need for, I guess, to normalise their experience within the school environment. I feel that was really powerful. Yeah.
It's great advice and very true perspective. And Glenn?
Yeah, thanks, Sandra. And happy to answer the question, I guess, from my own personal experience and with Lockie, and he's happy for me to talk about him. But look, from our perspective, you know, certainly we went through challenging times when Lockie was first diagnosed. You go through the stage of, you know, why me? And we certainly had and still have many challenges in terms of sleepless nights and up late trying to bring his sugars down and so on. We've had to you know, we've had to work through the education system, the health system, and various challenges in that regard. For Lockie, a big part of his life has also been swimming, and the combination of diabetes and swimming has been a really interesting challenge for anyone who's done some swimming and done it at a competitive level. It's a really tough sport. It's a tough sport by itself, and you combine that with diabetes, and you combine that with, I guess, a child growing, you know, from age 9, he's 21 now. Anyone goes through a lot of physical and emotional development through those years. But that plus diabetes plus swimming, and when I say swimming, and why is that challenging? It's a sport where success is sort of measured in 1/100ths of seconds. And you know, the difference between success and failure is that, you know, that's pretty tough for anyone. But I do remember so as he developed his swimming, he got to a level and stage that, you know, he was doing nine training sessions a week. We were up at 5 in the morning in the pool, you know, 5:30, 3 hours without his pump on. So you start to get the effect of insulin through the night, and then off the pump, and a huge amount of food. So out of the pool, he was having, I'd say he was having 3 breakfasts before school at 8:30. So the carbs associated with that and the insulin required, and that's before he started the day. And then back end of the day was doing the same. So another 3-hour training session, and again the food. It was a yo-yo effect in terms of his sugars. I'm getting nods here in terms of that, but it really felt like we were just living through a constant science experiment, you know, every day in terms of what's he going to do. But it was his passion in terms of swimming, and so that's certainly something that we didn't. He just wanted to do it, but it also helped define him. It helped define him as a person, and part of what, you know, he likes to think is, and you know, that diabetes doesn't define him. It's what else he's doing and achieving that also defines him. And swimming was a big part of that. He actually he has swum at national level. He's competed for Australia. So he's achieved a hell of a lot in that regard, you know, despite or with diabetes. So from our perspective, that's taught him a hell of a lot around resilience and living with diabetes, and that combination, I think, has certainly helped him develop as a person. The last point I'd make there, Sandra, is Diabetes Victoria in his development and for us as a family has also played a really important role in terms of Lockie participating in camps, has helped him significantly in terms of his own confidence and networks, etc. So it's been, you know, great to experience that as a parent as well.
Great. Well, that concludes the panel discussion. If you'd like to join me in thanking our panel members, they've been fabulous. Thank you. Great. And as we head off, I do encourage people in the break, which I do believe is coming up, definitely get out and have a chat with our panel members and one another, because that's where we make those true and deep connections, which you'll definitely get lots of opportunities to do that today. So thank you.